Just to introduce yourself, would you be able to say your name, your role with SPED Awareness, and how long you've fulfilled this role for?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Maya, and I'm a co-founder of SPED Awareness and head of Year 10 program. And well, I've been with SPED Awareness since the start, so for about 5 years now. Um, ooh, sorry, let me switch off that.
Great, thanks so much. So I just want to ask you, first of all, what made you decide to co-found SPED Awareness?
Okay. Well, when we first started just putting down the foundations of SPED Awareness in 2015, back then it like neurodiversity itself was not very much like talked about, and it definitely did not form part of the traditional diversity discourse. And so both my fellow co-founder Mitchell and myself, we wanted to create something that would open and maintain conversations about SPEDs and make sure that awareness is raised at crucial points in the education process. And then when we sat down to think, what are these crucial points in the education process? Just looking back at our own experience and experience of our peers and colleagues, I think it's fair to say that GCSE and A levels is probably the points of the most like heightened pressures, both from academic and social points of view. And I think it's pretty difficult even for neurotypical students, let alone neurodiverse students, and the time where the students can really make do with a bit more support. And so looking at that, and also the fact that we really enjoyed working with students, both Mitchell and myself, we both did like a fair bit of ambassadoring throughout our academic careers. These two sort of factors kind of came together to create like the program and the charity of SPED Awareness. And so I think having our own charity allowed us to combine these two aims. So to raise the awareness of special educational differences at these crucial time points, and at the same time want to take the opportunity to help the students develop their critical thinking skills and to just look at the information in a more informed way, essentially.
Great, that's a great answer. Thank you so much. And obviously the charity's come a long way since 2015. So I wanted to ask you, what's been your highlight of the whole experience so far for you, if you can pick one?
Oh, this is such a lovely question. Thank you. Um, so I like I'm glad to say that SPED awareness on the whole has been an exceptionally rewarding experience so far. So I gladly admit that there are so many highlights to pick from that it's really difficult to just center on one particular one. But probably, I think one of the most touching things for me was just the response of the kids that we do work with, and the responsibility that they take to then become the agents of change. So I'll give you one example. I think once one of our students came up to us after the session, and he just shared that he took the initiative to lead SPED awareness sessions in his local mosque.
Oh,
And then he told us, thank you. He told us about like the excellent response that it had, and that people were really surprised and didn't expect to know that, together with the difficulties of SPEDs, there are also so many strengths and highlights. And I think it's moments like these that really make it worthwhile for me. And I think Mitchell would agree that this is what has kept us going through the years.
that's a lovely answer. Thank you. And obviously, just then you were talking about the in-school sessions. But obviously this year, those have looked a bit different. With the pandemic, things have had to change. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the challenges you found keeping SPED awareness going during the COVID-19 pandemic and the changes you've had to make?
Sure. Thank you. That's also a lovely question. I think we've been quite lucky in a sense that we didn't really face an inordinate amount of challenges because we are not sort of a traditional school. But I think in the beginning, just initially, the uncertainty of whether or not our in-school sessions are going to go ahead this year was making the whole thing feel just a little bit precarious. But then on the other hand, we've been wanting to engage our students in a productive way over the summers anyway. So I think for us, pandemic was sort of perfect timing to conceptualize our summer school and then also get the preparations for it underway. So, and I have to say, we've been incredibly fortunate with our staff being so responsive and so kind of on board with the whole program, and they got down to work immediately in terms of developing the content for the summer school and then doing excellent bits of research. So we're just eternally grateful for their incredible work ethic, for their input throughout. And I think our joint effort has made the whole transition from the kind of year-long in-school session program to just like condensed summer school program feel quite smooth. So yeah, that's been our experience so far.
Great. Well, I'm glad it's been a positive one. On my end, it definitely has been as well. Like, I felt like everything's run so smoothly, even though there's been so much upheaval, which is so nice. Like, to know that something like this can keep going and people can stay motivated.
Oh, thank you.
And so I wanted to ask, because obviously we're a charity dealing with learning and education, which has changed so much this year. How do you think education as it's existed during the pandemic, for example, the move to online learning, do you think it'll have a lasting impact on education in the long term? And how do you think this will affect people with SPEDs in particular?
Oh, sorry, I kind of missed the last part.
Oh, sorry. So do you think learning and education as it's existed during the pandemic, for example, the move to online learning, will have a lasting impact on education in the long term? And if you do think that, how do you think this will affect people with SPEDs in particular?
I think it's probably difficult to give like a unipolar answer to this, because there are so many things to consider when thinking about this shift to online learning. I think just globally, the pandemic has definitely shown us like alternative ways to engage with the education, and together with the many barriers and the sort of resistance to change and the adaptation, I think it has brought many opportunities as well. And I think probably I would agree with the overarching educational authorities who their prognosis is that probably moving forward, the education will just incorporate a lot more of these online bits, at least maybe not 50-50, but it'll definitely be moving towards encouraging students to develop themselves as strong independent learners, develop strong self-management skills. And I think probably just looking at the way our society is evolving, and just like when the students grow up and then go to further education and find employment, I think these strong independent learning skills are so important. So probably the earlier students are sort of exposed to them, the better and the stronger they can become just moving forward. And then in terms of our target audience, the neurodiverse students, and how they found it, again, I think online learning and home learning is just very situational and contextual, in a sense that all of a sudden environment, as you know, plays an even greater role in educational outcomes. So I think a lot of success would probably depend on very practical things, like whether appropriate technology is available, whether internet connection is stable, whether they have a suitable study space in their house, and whether the living environment allows them to have an adequate work hygiene. Things that would avoid them getting into burnout, things that would allow them to separate work from play. These things, I think, become even more important when you don't have that physical separation between work and like home environment. But then at the same time, I think all the neurodiverse individuals historically benefit from reasonable adjustments in the school, in the workplace, in the university. So if their home environment allows them to implement these things for themselves, then I think it can have a really positive effect as well. Like, I think it gives the opportunity to create a more tailored learning environment. And then you can work much more flexibly and play in your own strengths. Like, for example, I think it allows you to have more frequent breaks and more creative breaks, and then incorporate bits of exercise into it as well. So I think if these things are available, then they can have a really positive outcome. It's in a way creating your own reasonable adjustments, and creating your own fertile environment that fosters growth and learning that works for yourself. So yeah, that would be my answer.
That's lovely, thank you. It's really nice to hear that you feel that there can be so many positive outcomes as well. I feel like all we're hearing at the moment is a lot of how COVID is negatively impacting children's education. So it's really good to hear like some of the positive things that might come out of this in the long term. And hopefully, obviously, this year we'll see the establishment of the summer school program 2021. So I wanted to ask you a bit about that, specifically what you're most looking forward to about it.
Oh, I think summer school has been like on our thoughts, in our heads for quite a while. So I think we're all really excited for it, because it's going to be so different to what we've been used to so far, and it's something that we wanted to try out for such a long time that I think we're all quite pumped for it. And as you know, usually our programs would run over a few months, over the whole span of the academic year, and then I think now it would just be interesting to see whether we can achieve the same level and quality of rapport with the students over a few weeks rather than a few months. And also, I think it's interesting to see how much of a shift in thinking can be achieved in terms of raising awareness and growing the skill set of our students, again, in a shorter time frame. So yeah, there's going to be loads of experimentation, loads of trying out new things. So yeah, loads of things to look forward to.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. And can you give us an outline of some of the skills you hope students will gain from the program?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably one of the greatest skills we'll try and develop in them is learning really quickly, because something that we try and kind of go over a few months would now be delivered over a few weeks. But in terms of the sessions, we try to incorporate things that we'd usually do with the students, just maybe in a more creative way, something that can be delivered online. But the sessions design will still challenge the students in many different ways. There'll be loads of opportunity to develop researching capacity and the critical thinking analysis in terms of like preparing their evidence for the discursive sort of sessions. And then I think public speaking and the ability to convincingly argue their points will still be trained and honed, because we'll still host the debate sessions. There's loads of features on Zoom and on MS Teams that allow you to break out into smaller groups and then come back for a bigger debate. So I think that can still go ahead, definitely. And then we also incorporated a lot of team building exercises. And I think these will allow the students to sort of reflect on their collaborative approach to the tasks, and their ability to work together towards a common goal. And then at the end of the program, there's some introspective exercise, some individual work in terms of applying all of the skills and all of the knowledge that they have acquired over this period of time towards their final project. And of course, the best works will be awarded with prizes. So there's still a celebratory element to it at the end.
That sounds great, thank you. And obviously, all these great initiatives that we have do require help and donations from people, because we are a charity. So just to round up, would you like to tell everyone why people should donate to SPED awareness and make sure these programs and these initiatives can go ahead?
Yes, of course. Thank you. That's an excellent question. And before I answer it, I'd just like to take this opportunity to extend our gratitude towards our existing generous benefactors. They have made our journey so much easier and so much more inspiring. So I'd just like to thank them all from the bottom of my heart. And in terms of why people should donate, so it's probably a cliche, but I think one of the main reasons why people should donate is because every single one of our donors can make a genuine difference in someone's life, because neurodiversity is so common, and it's pertinent to essentially anyone with a brain. So it's human beings of all races, of all genders, economic backgrounds, sexual orientations, and yet you so rarely see it as, make part of the traditional diversity discourse. I don't think it even makes part of that kind of diversity discourse so far, but I think there's definitely movement towards incorporating it, talking about it more. And regrettably, there are still so many like rampant misrepresentations of SPEDs in the media, and just like that informs the public opinion, and inevitably that has a negative impact on the self-image, on the mental health, and ultimately relationships and employment prospects of the neurodiverse community. And that sort of marginalizes diverse talent, I think, from the labor market. So I think our awareness sessions create such a massive ripple effect, because the students that we teach then become agents of change. They inspire their friends, their colleagues, to kind of talk about this, create conversations. So in a sense, every donation, however small, can just have such a magnified positive outcome that I think it's kind of like, it's what Tesco says, every little helps. But I think every little in our organization becomes so big and positive that I think it's really worthwhile to have your input. And I think another reason why donating to our charity earns some major karma points is that the schools that we work with are all from underrepresented areas, and statistically the students from these schools are much less likely to go to university, pursue higher education, and then have higher earning jobs. And so by participating in our sessions, they themselves develop transferable skills, and they improve their future prospects for higher education and ultimately employability. So sorry, I'm just probably tooting my own horn here, but I do think that it's an incredibly powerful way to just contribute to the betterment of society, and have a direct input into creating a more level playing field for the diverse talent. So yes.
Great, thank you.
Donate now.
You definitely deserve to toot your own horn there. So the work you've been doing is brilliant. And thanks so much for giving me such in-depth answers. That was really engaging interview. Thank you.